Hey, welcome. I'm making something a little bit different. This is a special request from my kids. A little French toast action. So I'm going to start off making a raspberry coulis. I like a little sauce on my with my French toast. So we're going to start off with about 12 to 15 ounces of raspberries. Now you can do this with any berry, blackberries, blueberries, strawberries. They all work out fairly well with this technique. Oh, here I pick out a leaf. Yeah, watch out for those. You know, it's not going to hurt you, but you know. We're going to start off with a little bit of red wine. You know my affinity for those little small bottles. They're great for cooking. Yeah, and there's no waste. Yeah, limited waste. Half a cup of sugar. Now I'm going to double check that later on. So I'm going to throw in a star anise pod. I like the flavor, just helps balance those flavors out a little bit. So here we're on our bread. This bread I cut up last night and let it dry overnight. To do that, of course, leave it out on the counter. Don't wrap it up or anything like that. So let's make our custard. I've got 3 eggs. And I'm going to add about a half a cup or so of cream. You can use half and half, whole milk, skim milk, 1%, 2%, 3% milk, whatever you want. You could probably even use almond milk if you want. You might have to increase the eggs though for that. Vanilla, use the good stuff. And the last thing I'm going to put in there is, well, second to last thing, fresh nutmeg. Fresh nutmeg is great. Grate it yourself. Don't use the sawdust in a can. You could also put a pinch of salt in there, and you need a sweetener. I like honey. Honey goes really well with the sourdough, the yeasty bread that I've got. And that was probably maybe an ounce. Not too much. Mix that up really well. I like using the zip top bag for this. Just popped up bread in there. The reason why is you get a little bit better contact with the custard, and you can actually use less custard than you would, you know, throwing it in a dish or something like that. So tighten that up, get as much of the air out of there as possible, and then just slosh it around and make sure that you've got good contact everywhere, and store this in the refrigerator overnight. Now mind you, this whole thing that I've done here is the night before. Now we're going to check out our berry sauce. I like it a little bit smoother, so I'm going to use the immersion blender on it. It only takes a second. Oh, don't forget to take out the star anise pod. Otherwise you'll have shards of wood in your sauce. Doesn't take long with these berries. They've cooked down quite a bit. It just breaks them up just a little bit more. Now I'm going to throw in a little bit of salt. That'll just help bring out the flavors. Give it a taste. It's going to need a little more sugar. So total sugar, I'm using about 3/4 of a cup. This is one of those things, you do it to your taste. I like mine a little bit tart, and that's the way these are coming up. So I'm going to put that back on the heat just to melt the sugar and stuff like that. And now we strain it. I like to strain out the seeds. I'm not a big fan of them. Also, in the restaurant, it makes more of a refined sauce. Now this strainer, it's expensive. This one was about $80 and it's a cheap one. You don't have to have it, just a regular fine mesh strainer will do. And again, I use the back of a silicone spatula just to push it through the strainer. The best thing, of course, is a ladle, but ladles don't. My ladle is kind of an awkward shaped ladle and doesn't work very well.
Hey, good morning. So while you were sleeping, I was sleeping and setting this up. So the first thing I did was I moved the bread out of the bag and set them on a rack to drain off the excess custard. I seared them off in my pan here, just a little bit of butter, and then I got them in the oven. They're going to take about 20 minutes in the oven, and then we'll be eating. But while we're doing that, let's talk about the raspberry coulis. So one of my concerns about this, and I didn't state it last night because I didn't want to concern you, but my concern was that it wouldn't tighten up the way I wanted it to. So I was prepared for this morning making an adjustment to that by putting it back on the stove and hitting it with a little cornstarch slurry, about a tablespoon to a couple tablespoons of water. Drizzle that into the boiling liquid, or coulis, and then let it thicken up. But I didn't want to do that if I didn't have to. So let's take a look at our consistency right now. Nice, thick. That line holds. That means, that's a French term called nappe. So when that line holds, you notice I have to hit it a few times before it even budges. That's the consistency that most sauces need to be. Or, well, I like them. The other thing I was going to do is I was going to check the flavor. Okay, it's not too sweet. The flavor of the star anise we put in there comes out. There's a little tartness in the background that I like. You know, remember, we had honey in the custard. So we're gonna have a sweet factor there. This will be tart with a little background sweetness, and we're gonna make something else to go with the whole thing. Hold on, I gotta clean up first, and then we'll get on to that. So lots of times when you make a French toast or waffles or pancakes, you make a whipped cream to go with that. We're going to do something very similar to that, but we're going to use mascarpone cheese. So mascarpone goes in the bowl of your mixer. We're going to let that soften up a little bit after the mixer. Okay, we're gonna add a little flavor to it. Just a pinch of salt, some honey, it's probably about 3 tablespoons. Some cream, I'm probably gonna go maybe an ounce and a half, so which is also 3 tablespoons. And an additional flavor. You can throw in some type of liqueur or something like that. We did orange liqueur in the blintz and with our blintzes. Amaretto works really well, and to tell you the truth, I have an amaretto extract. We're just going to give it maybe a 1/4 teaspoon. There we go. And I'm going to let this mix up and turn into something good. Here we go. We're at the consistency of like a thick whipped cream. Let's give it a taste. Very nice, very nice. The amaretto comes through, the honey comes through, plays very well with the amaretto. And the cheese, just a background flavor that's just the foundation on which everything is built upon. Really nice. So the French toast has been cooking off for about 20 minutes at about 350. It's nice, they're firm, the custard doesn't ooze out when you give them a squeeze. Let's go get them and plate them up. Oh, they smell incredible. So, how I like to plate them up, a little bit of berry sauce down on the plate. You can make a pretty design if you want. Grab a few of these. Set them right there on top. Some of the mascarpone cream. I'm going to put that right there. And then top it with a few berries. So that's my French toast. It's a little bit different than you're going to see from most places. When you go back to college,